was still holding the appointment card for our fertility workup when Ethan slid a manila envelope across the kitchen table. His mother sat beside him, stirring cream into coffee she hadn't been invited to drink. "Your wife is barren," Margaret said. "Stop wasting your life waiting for a miracle." For a second, I honestly thought I had walked into the wrong house. It was my kitchen. My blue ceramic mug sat beside the sink. My raincoat hung from the hook near the back door. The digital clock on the stove read 7:14 a.m., and a local meteorologist on WKYT was warning about freezing rain along New Circle Road. Everything looked ordinary except my husband's face. Ethan wouldn't meet my eyes. "What's in the envelope?" I asked. He pushed it another inch toward me. "Rebecca, please sit down." "I am sitting down." Margaret made a small sound in her throat, the kind she used when she believed someone was being difficult on purpose. Ethan finally looked at me. He was 45, silver just beginning to show near his temples, still wearing the navy scrubs he'd slept in after an overnight call. To anyone else, he looked steady, competent, the kind of doctor you'd trust when things went wrong. I knew better. "I filed for divorce," he said. The refrigerator hummed behind me. That was the first sound I noticed, not my breathing, not the rain tapping the window, just the old refrigerator kicking on as if the morning had not split open. I looked down at the appointment card in my hand. Dr. Lisa Chen, Reproductive Endocrinology, Tuesday 9:30 a.m. Our appointment. At least I had thought it was ours. "You filed before the testing?" I asked. Ethan rubbed both hands over his face. "We've been doing this for years." "No, I've been doing this for years. I've had blood drawn, ultrasounds, hormone injections, procedures. You haven't even given one sample." Margaret leaned forward. "My son has delivered more babies than most people will ever see. He knows his body." I turned to her. "That isn't how fertility testing works?" "Well, something isn't working." Ethan closed his eyes. "Mom." But he didn't tell her to stop. That was Ethan's favorite kind of protest, soft enough that Margaret never had to obey it. We had been married 12 years. In the beginning, we were happy in the quiet, ordinary way that doesn't make interesting stories. Saturday breakfasts at Doodle's downtown, UK basketball on television with Ethan yelling at the referees like they could hear him. Summer drives past the horse farms on Old Frankfurt Pike, windows down, no destination in mind. We had talked about children before the wedding, 2, maybe 3. Ethan wanted a boy named after his father. I wanted a little girl with my grandmother's stubborn chin. For 6 years we assumed we had time. Then came the first pregnancy. I bought a tiny pair of white socks at Target and hid them in Ethan's dresser drawer. He found them after work and laughed so hard he cried. At 9 weeks, there was no heartbeat. The second loss happened 18 months later. The third was at 11 weeks. After that one, Ethan stopped touching the framed ultrasound picture on the bookshelf. He started sleeping with his back to me. He spent longer hours at the hospital and called it responsibility. Margaret called it reality. A year earlier, one of my tests had shown diminished ovarian reserve. Dr. Chen explained that my egg supply was lower than expected for my age. It could make pregnancy more difficult. It did not mean impossible. Margaret had been in the waiting room that day because she insisted on driving us home. By the time we reached her townhouse in Chevy Chase, diminished ovarian reserve had become, "Her ovaries are failing." 3 months later, it became, "Rebecca can't have children." That morning, she finally used the word she had been circling for a year. Barren. I placed the appointment card on top of the envelope. "Did you speak to Dr. Chen?" Ethan stared at the table. "Mom spoke with someone." I looked at Margaret. "Who?" "A person familiar with your situation." That isn't an answer. She confirmed what we already knew. "No one at that clinic would discuss my medical information with you." Margaret's expression barely changed. "You always were defensive about facts." I almost laughed. It came out as one short breath. Ethan reached for my hand, and I pulled it away. "I'm 45, he said. "I still want a family." The sentence landed harder than the papers. Not because I didn't understand what he meant. Because after 12 years, 3 pregnancies, and 3 hospital bracelets, he had decided I did not count as family. "You already had one," I said. His mouth tightened. Margaret looked toward the window as if I had embarrassed everyone. Ethan told me he had met with a lawyer 3 weeks earlier. The house would remain his for the moment because it was closer to the hospital. He had transferred his paycheck into a separate account. My salary still went into my own checking account, but several automatic payments had already been changed. Internet, utilities, home insurance. He had prepared. That was the part that stayed with me. He had gone to work, eaten dinner across from me, asked whether we needed milk, and prepared to remove me from his life one automatic payment at a time. I did not sign anything. Instead, I folded the appointment card into my purse and called a family law attorney named Naomi Price from the parking lot of a Panera on Richmond Road. Naomi told me not to agree to a single thing while I was in shock. "Take pictures of every page," she said. "Save every message. And Rebecca, change the passwords on your personal accounts today." By Friday, I was living in a furnished apartment off Nicholasville Road. It had beige walls, thin carpet, and a second-floor balcony overlooking a row of parked cars. The first night, I ate microwave soup from a paper bowl because I couldn't find the box with my dishes. At work the next morning, I helped Walter Grady practice standing from a chair. Walter was 76, a retired history teacher recovering from a stroke. His left leg dragged when he was tired, and he hated the safety belt we used around his waist. "On 3, I told him. Lean forward, nose over toes." He pushed up, wobbled, and dropped back into the chair. "Damn thing moved," he muttered. The chair did not move. Then the building shifted. Despite myself, I smiled. He studied my face. "You look worse than I walk." "Thank you, Walter." "I meant emotionally." I adjusted his cane. "Let's try again." He gripped the armrests, then stopped. "That's the trouble with losing your balance," he said. "Everybody tells you to stand up before they ask what knocked you down." I looked away before he could see my eyes fill. 4 days later, I kept the appointment with Dr. Chen. Alone. She reviewed my blood work, explained again that low ovarian reserve did not equal sterility, and asked when I'd last had a period. I gave her the date. She paused. "Let's run one more test." I assumed it was routine. That afternoon, I was sitting on the edge of my borrowed bed, opening a carton of Greek yogurt, when my phone rang. Dr. Chen's name appeared on the screen. "Rebecca," she said, "I need you to sit down." "I am sitting." She took a breath. "Your pregnancy test is positive. Based on your dates, you're close to 4 weeks. The yogurt slipped from my hand and landed upside down on the carpet. I didn't move to pick it up. The baby had been conceived before Ethan filed. Before Margaret sat in my kitchen and reduced my entire body to one cruel word. Before my husband decided he needed to leave me to have a family. Ethan's name was still in my recent calls. I pressed it. My thumb hovered over the green button. Then I remembered his silence while his mother told me what I was worth. I locked the screen. For that one night, I kept the truth to myself. The first emotion I felt wasn't happiness. It was fear. Dr. Lisa Chen asked me to return to her office the following morning, and I barely slept the night before. I kept waking up every hour, checking my phone as if somehow the pregnancy would disappear if I wasn't paying attention. At 43, after 3 miscarriages, I didn't trust good news anymore. Good news had broken my heart before. Dr. Chen greeted me with the same calm smile she'd worn through every appointment over the past 2 years. "How are you holding up?" "I honestly don't know." She nodded like she'd heard that answer 100 times. "That's probably the healthiest response anyone could give." She reviewed my blood work again, then turned the monitor toward me. "Rebecca, I need you to understand something very clearly." I leaned forward. "Your previous diagnosis was diminished ovarian reserve." "I know. That is not the same as infertility." "I know." She looked at me for another second. "No, I don't think you do." She folded her hands. "It means pregnancy may be more difficult. It does not mean impossible. Somewhere along the way, someone turned less likely into never." I didn't answer, because I knew exactly who had done that. "We're going to consider this a high-risk pregnancy because of your age and your history," she continued. "You'll come in more often than most mothers, and I want you to reduce stress as much as possible." I laughed softly. "I got divorced 4 days ago." She sighed. "I wish I'd known." "So do I." She hesitated before asking one more question. "Did your husband ever complete his fertility evaluation?" I looked down. "Ex-husband." "I'm sorry. He never took the tests." For the first time since I'd known Dr. Chen, I saw genuine disbelief on her face. "He never—" She stopped herself. Then she spoke much more carefully. Rebecca, whenever couples struggle to conceive, we evaluate both partners. That has always been the recommendation. I know. I just wanted to make sure someone had told you. They did. What happened? I smiled without humor. Pride happened. She didn't argue. Instead, she handed me a folder explaining prenatal nutrition, warning signs, and appointment dates. Before I left, she touched my arm gently. Your body has surprised all of us. I hope it keeps surprising us. So do I. Back at my apartment, I sat at the tiny kitchen table with my laptop open. I started writing an email. Ethan, I found out something yesterday that affects both of us. I stared at those 2 sentences for almost 20 minutes. Then my phone buzzed. It wasn't Ethan. It was his attorney. The message was brief. Please direct any communication regarding the pending divorce through counsel. I closed my eyes. 10 minutes later, another notification appeared. This time, it was Margaret. Please don't drag this out. Ethan deserves the chance to build a real family. I read the message 3 times. Then I took screenshots and forwarded them to Naomi Price. She called me less than 15 minutes later. Don't respond. I wasn't planning to. Good. I hesitated. Naomi? Yes? I'm pregnant. Silence. Then a slow breath. Does Ethan know? No. When did you find out? Yesterday. She thought for several seconds. Rebecca, eventually he'll need to know. I know. You can't erase his legal responsibilities. I'm not trying to. Then why haven't you told him? I looked out my apartment window. Someone across the parking lot was helping an elderly woman load groceries into her trunk. I don't think I can survive another conversation where he looks at me like I'm broken. Naomi's voice softened. I understand. I need to know this baby is okay first. That's reasonable. She paused. Let's get through the first trimester, then we'll handle everything properly. For the first time all week, someone had given me permission not to decide everything immediately. I deleted the unfinished email. Life became strangely practical after that. Morning sickness didn't care that my marriage had ended. Bills didn't care either. My apartment was on the 2nd floor, and climbing those stairs with grocery bags suddenly felt like hiking a mountain. I started buying smaller cartons of milk because they weighed less. Instead of making 1 trip from the car, I made 3. I shopped at Target after work because their maternity section had clearance racks. I clipped digital coupons. I canceled streaming services. I learned which pharmacy offered the cheapest prenatal vitamins. Some evenings I was so tired I fell asleep on the couch before dinner. Other nights I sat awake wondering whether buying a crib before 12 weeks would somehow tempt fate. Grief makes ordinary decisions feel dangerous. Walter noticed I was eating crackers during one therapy session. Those for me? You don't even like crackers. I don't know. Retirement changes a man. I smiled. They're for my stomach. You sick? A little. He studied me for a long moment. You know something. What? When people get older, everybody thinks pain always comes from arthritis. He tapped his chest. Most of it starts somewhere in here. I adjusted the resistance band around his ankle. You always this philosophical? My late wife said I only got smart after 70. He pushed through another exercise. You ever notice people keep trying to recover the life they lost? I suppose. I did it for years after Helen died. He rested his hands on the parallel bars. Finally figured out something. What? I wasn't getting the old life back. He looked straight at me. So I stopped chasing it. That sentence stayed with me the whole drive home. At 12 weeks, Dr. Chen smiled before she said anything. Ready? I nodded. She switched on the Doppler. For a second there was static. Then, fast. Steady. Strong. I'd heard heartbeats before, but never one that lasted. I cried so hard I couldn't apologize. Dr. Chen simply handed me tissues. I think this little one intends to stay. That afternoon, Naomi drafted a formal notice. Simple. Professional. No emotion. No accusations. It informed Ethan that I was pregnant. That conception occurred before our separation, and that future communication regarding the pregnancy should proceed through counsel while my physician managed a high-risk pregnancy. We sent it. Less than an hour later, my phone started ringing. Ethan? Again. 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 I let every call go to voicemail. The fifth message was only 18 seconds long. Rebecca, please call me. I didn't. Not because I hated him. Because I wasn't ready to hear his voice change depending on whether he believed me. 2 weeks later, Naomi arranged a meeting in her office. Ethan looked thinner. The confidence I'd always associated with him had disappeared. He sat down slowly. I took the tests. I said nothing. I should have done it years ago. Still nothing. He rubbed both hands together. I had 2 analyses. His voice cracked. They weren't good. I looked at him for the first time. What does not good mean? He swallowed. The specialist said, severe male factor infertility. The room became completely still. I asked if natural conception was impossible. And? He said unlikely. He laughed once. A doctor spends 20 years telling patients statistics don't define individuals. His eyes filled. Then he becomes the statistic. Neither of us spoke. Finally, Ethan whispered, if the dates are what you say. They are. Then, I interrupted him. You had 12 years to ask questions before you decided I was the problem. He nodded slowly. I know. No. I leaned forward. You know now. He lowered his head. I'm sorry. It was the first sincere apology I'd heard from him. It also came far too late. As he stood to leave, he hesitated. My mother told me she'd spoken to someone at your clinic. I frowned. Who? I don't know. She said they confirmed. He couldn't finish. I stared at the floor. No one at that clinic would ever discuss my records with Margaret. Not Dr. Chen. Not a nurse. Not anyone. A cold realization settled over me. Margaret hadn't misunderstood my diagnosis. She hadn't repeated bad information. She had invented certainty where none had ever existed. And Ethan? He had believed her without demanding proof. That hurt even more than the divorce. By the time I reached 38 weeks, I had almost convinced myself the hardest part was behind me. The baby's nursery fit into one corner of my first-floor apartment. Walter's daughter had helped me move after she discovered I was still climbing 2 flights of stairs carrying laundry. She insisted I was being stubborn. She wasn't wrong. The room wasn't fancy. A white crib I found through a neighborhood Facebook group. A rocking chair with one arm slightly loose. Tiny blue blankets folded neatly in a basket. Every item represented someone's kindness rather than my own spending. For the first time in months, I let myself believe I might actually bring this baby home. Dr. Chen remained cautiously optimistic. At your next appointment, she told me, we'll talk about scheduling an induction if labor hasn't started on its own. Is everything looking okay? So far, yes. Those 3 words became my favorite sentence in the English language. So far, yes. Not perfect. Not guaranteed. Just enough hope to keep walking forward. 3 days later, on a warm September evening, I finished my last patient a little after 5. Walter had finally walked the length of the therapy gym using only a cane. When he reached the end, he raised both hands like he'd won the Kentucky Derby. I'll take applause now. I laughed. You've earned it. He looked at my stomach. You're next. I hope not tonight. Well, babies have terrible timing. He wasn't wrong. I stopped at a grocery store on Nicholasville Road to buy milk, bananas, and oatmeal. I had just loaded the bags into my trunk when a sharp pain wrapped around my lower back. I froze. Another came 5 minutes later while I was driving. I pulled into a gas station parking lot and started timing them. 7 minutes apart. I called Dr. Chen's office. The answering service connected me to the on-call physician. How far apart? About 7 minutes. First baby? Yes. Head to the hospital now. My doctor practices at St. Joseph. What's closest? I swallowed. Bluegrass Regional. Go there. I knew exactly who was working there that night. The drive felt longer than it actually was. Every traffic light stayed red. Every bump in the road made me grip the steering wheel harder. When I reached Bluegrass Regional Medical Center, another contraction bent me forward before I even opened the car door. A volunteer hurried over with a wheelchair. "I can walk." He smiled politely. "Humor me." Inside labor and delivery, a familiar voice called my name. "Rebecca?" I looked up. Angela Brooks. Her gray hair was tucked beneath a surgical cap, just as neatly as it had always been. She had attended one of the hospital fundraising breakfasts years earlier when Ethan and I were still married. Recognition crossed her face. "Oh, honey." She immediately knelt beside my wheelchair. "How close together?" 5, maybe 6 minutes. She helped me onto the triage bed while another nurse attached monitors across my stomach. The baby's heartbeat filled the room. Strong. Fast. Relief washed through me. Angela checked the computer. Then her expression changed. "What?" She hesitated. "Dr. Lawson is the attending tonight." Every muscle in my body tightened. "No." "Rebecca." "No." The word came out louder than I intended. "I don't want him anywhere near me." Angela nodded immediately. "I understand." She didn't argue. She simply reached for the phone. "I'm calling Dr. Priya Patel." She spoke quietly into the receiver. When she hung up, she looked genuinely disappointed. "Dr. Patel's in an emergency cesarean." "When will she be here?" "As soon as she can." I closed my eyes. "I'll wait." Another contraction answered for me. This one stole my breath completely. Angela watched the monitor.